Welcome to the She's the Boss show, which streams through LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and is all about shining a light on female founders and women doing extraordinary things in business. And I am so excited because my guest today is Louise Williams, who has done my profile photo, and I get lots and lots of comments about it. She's an extraordinary woman, much more than just a photographer, and I love her to death. So, hi, Louise.
Hello.
Hello. All right, so I'm going to put you in the hot seat and you can explain what it is that you do with people. So what's the name of your business and what are you doing?
Well, it's my name. It's my name. So
Easy.
Louise Williams, that's easy.
It's Louise Williams Photography or just Louise Williams?
No, just Louise Williams. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Okay. And yeah, tell people a little bit more about what you do.
So I'm a leadership coach and a photographic storyteller. I help a lot of founders and teams to get really visible in a creative way so they can stand out. I work a lot with Jungian psychology and the hero's journey and use a lot of symbolism so you can subconsciously influence people's buying and connecting and staying loyal to your brand over time. So there's a lot that goes into the process with my clients and I. So we collaborate together.
Great. Yeah. And I've done a little bit of collaborating with you, but yeah. I'm going to get you to explain it a little bit more what the actual process is because it's pretty amazing. But first, let's start up with why did you set up the business? And I know that you do both. So tell me a little bit about just the journey that led you to here and whether there was a bit of a light bulb moment or why you decided to start working for yourself. So go.
So I started working for myself in 2005. I was a registered psychologist at the time.
Yeah.
And I was in private practice and very, very busy, very popular. Loved it, but then started to burn out, bought a camera, got obsessed. Started to do everything that every photographer will do on the planet, which is events, babies, families, glamour. I got awards for glamour internationally.
Wow.
And then corporate work. So I got to about, I think it was 2013, and I was starting to reflect on what was going on in the industry because of course we were all starting to get iPhones that were a lot better with their cameras at that point. And so I thought, what am I going to do here? Because I wasn't doing psychology any longer. I'd moved out of that because I was burnt out. And so I thought, I wonder if I actually combine my background. I don't want to actually work as a psychologist, but my background in psychology with photography, whether I could actually make that work. And it has, because people can see it and they can understand it, and they may not fully get it initially, but once they've experienced it, they're all in. So,
okay, well, this leads us perfectly to you telling people how that process works, because I know from my own point of view, I thought I was going to turn up at a photography studio. You were going to take some photos of me. I would be my usual silly self jumping around the room. And, as we know, and intimately, I have no patience for it. So I kind of do like what most people would take 3 hours to do. I do in about 5 minutes.
Pretty much, yes.
But talk us through the process. So if I become a client of yours, how does it all work?
So we sit down and have a conversation first about what your needs are and also what your future is looking like, what you want to start to invest in, what kind of decisions you want to make, maybe a change in how you're going to deliver it. So, we often create these big, bold business plans and then everything kind of rolls out as we're growing. My plan, my goal, whenever I'm meeting with you, is to go, okay, how can I fast track all of that? How can I future pace you in a way where you get all of the collaterals and all of the knowledge and the mindset and the messaging now that you would use in 18 months' time, 2 years, when you're actually living those bigger business plans, and use them now. So it takes a lot of reflection, coaching. I work people through a process of getting them really clear about that future vision.
Can you talk a little bit about your icon cupboard? Because I just love it so much. Or is that coming up? I just don't want you to skip over it because it's awesome.
Yeah, that's coming up. So I worked through their obsession point first. A lot of people will tap into niche marketing. My goal isn't to do niche marketing because I almost feel like you can get really bored when you do that and you can get kind of stuck.
Okay.
Whereas obsession, I try and get you to your obsession word that's going to basically underpin everything.
Right.
And my obsession word is visibility. And
Funnily enough,
I've
so is mine.
there you go. So you know, a lot of people will think, oh well, I can only pick a word that I'm really really good at. That's not necessarily the case in psychology, and with branding, personal branding. You need to be vulnerable in how you present that obsession. And so your obsession is usually both the thing you thrive with and the thing you struggle with.
Can you give
So I
some
will
just a couple of examples other than visibility for you? What sort of words do people come up with?
there's some people have things like capacity or not
Okay.
having capacity for things. Um, legacy,
Okay.
courage.
Yeah.
Courage is a big one. Uh,
No, that's great.
hmm,
I just wanted, just wanted an idea. That's given me a really good idea. Okay, so
yeah.
once they've worked out their word, or you've worked out with them what their word or
Yes.
their expression is, what happens
Yes.
next?
Then we'll do work in the icon cupboard that you call it, but it's actually a whole collection of Jungian psychology symbols. And yes, there's toys, but they represent the subconscious.
Yeah.
And the point is for you to go to the cupboard and get overwhelmed by how much options there are there, but
Yeah.
your subconscious is getting drawn to certain imagery.
Yeah.
And so you'll pick them out and you'll bring them down
And
onto
you
the.
pick three, don't you?
Yeah, some people will pick way more than that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, some people. So often I'll get people to pick their past, their present, and their future.
Yeah.
So what they're leaving behind, what they're currently in or maybe stuck in, and then what they're trying to position
Issue.
themselves into. And so some people will pick like 3 or 4 for the past, 3 or 4 because they just need, because their narrative is so full. So they need multiple things, and that's fine.
And
It
then do
gets a
you
bit
help them
complex.
whittle it down?
Or we
Or
try
you
and
just use
we
all of them?
try and find what the patterns are in
Right.
all of that, and it typically lines up with your word. So it all
Right.
kind of pieces together. And then the key here is that progression is also the progression of your client, your ideal client.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So that's a little bit of a tip there. In
So
that
what
whatever you
sort of,
have.
again, what can you just give an example? It doesn't have to be of anyone in particular, but just how that might work. So if I choose
I'll give
six,
you an example of
yeah,
mine. So
okay,
my timeline, I in the past have had moments when I've been really invisible. So something's happened, and I've had to, like my mum passing away several years ago. I was super invisible after that because of grief. But
yeah,
I had to also run my business at the same time, and so the struggles, the things you tell yourself, the problems that you face in that moment are things that your ideal client is most likely experiencing in the here and now. So a
right,
lot of my clients feel invisible. They feel like they can't get ahead. They feel like there's things weighing them down. There's not clarity because they've got too much going on up here. So I can
right,
relate to it because I've been there.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
experienced it, and I can use that kind of storytelling in my, which I do in my own personal branding. So I'm teaching my clients how to do that for themselves as well.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
once you've got to that stage, how do you then do the photography for them for 18 months in the future?
Hmm. A
Because it's
lot of the
very,
time.
I just have to interrupt you to say it is very special photography. I haven't seen really anyone else in Australia do photography like yours. And I'll give
Mhm.
people an example. If you go onto Louise's website, which I'll get you to share later, there are people there who have headshots with no eyes showing, for instance. There's a woman with a
Yeah.
bowler hat almost completely covering her head. There's
Yeah.
people juggling fairies and lights and And there are also, and it's my favorite one, the actuary with the Wonder Woman t-shirt underneath her jacket. So it's really cool and very different.
Yeah. And a lot of the time, the secret is actually in getting people outside of their head and out of all of the chatter.
Yeah.
Because people, including yourself, you were waiting for me to pose you up and say, just stand over there and I'll take a couple of shots.
Yeah.
But we turned music on. I got you to actually move to the music. I even moved to the music with you.
You've got a shot I don't even remember doing of me kind of like looking like I'm jumping in the air, and I don't think I did that.
Oh, you did a lot of that. You actually did a lot of that. So, you know, that is your unique expression of you. That's how we actually do see you. But if I told you, which I think I did at the start, how would you normally pose? We should actually try and get that photo. How would you normally pose? You were very straight up and down. You were just kind of, you know, casual to the camera. There wasn't that huge expression from you.
Right.
So the goal is how can I poke and prod and invite and draw you out of yourself in a way where you don't even realize it's happening, which is what happened for you.
Yeah.
Where you almost lose yourself for a moment. You forget that you're in front of a camera.
Right.
And that's the gold. That's actually the gold. But I'm always thinking to myself, where is this photo going? It's not just a pretty photo. What is it actually telling us about that storyline that we're trying to capture?
Right.
So there is method to the madness.
And then on the back of the photos, you also do a whole lot of graphic design and stuff as well, don't you?
Yep. So I'll help people with their websites, with any flyers that they need done, business cards, all their social media content, speaking, all of that, really. And doing it in a way that's not the stock standard either. I want them to shine with the photos as well. I just finished one just the other day that was for a magazine cover. So.
Oh my God, did you? I just think you would be the most amazing photographer for magazine covers. I am so thrilled. That's brilliant. And if there are any editors listening, you've got to go and look at Louise's work, because it's just crying out to be on magazine covers. Brilliant. Okay. And so if I was to say, so are there different services, or are you just offering the one service, which is the deep dive into yourself and then into the photography?
I think there's always a process. Obviously, I need a process of how I'm going to walk people through it. It's not just ad hoc. But I do work for people internationally, or people who can't get to me interstate. So I do a lot of coaching and that idea generating for people over the internet as well. But a lot of the time, it's also in person. With teams, I do a lot of personal branding training to help get their team members up to scratch with how they could be delivering some of the content for the business. So I do quite a bit, and then afterwards, it's how do you live into the brand? How do you, it's one thing to create it, but now how do you step up into it? And I see you do that quite beautifully. Like I see that photo come out, and I could feel your energy coming out of that photo, and you're doing it paired with copy that just makes it sing. Not everyone can do that. So.
Well, you're very kind, but not everybody gets such great shots to work with, so that makes it great. Okay, which leads me to, we've got a little bit of time. Do you want to tell me a couple of people you've worked with, and how, just a couple of stories around, and the one that sticks in my mind is the woman who had the glasses, but you can say whichever one. I'd just like to hear a couple of stories of women you've worked with, or people you've worked with, but ideally women, and how working with them and the photography has kind of, eventuated in other things.
I always love telling the story of Dr. Irina Yashin-Shaw. So I'll probably tell her, but also maybe if we got time, one other. So Irina is an innovation expert. So she speaks as well as consults. She came to me several years ago now saying, I need some photos for my new website and the front cover of my book, or the back cover of the book potentially. And I need some photos of me leaning against a wall and looking personable towards the camera. And I was like, that's very specific. Okay.
Very specific.
And I thought to myself, we won't be doing that. That's pretty boring. So we came into the shoot. We went through the whole process, the ideation and all the Ignite work. And then the photo shoot, we're both creative. So we ended up shooting all day. And it was,
wow.
I think we started at like 9 a.m. and we finished, I think we were still going at 6 p.m.
Blimey, Louise, that's a huge shoot.
Oh, huge day. But we were all in the zone, so I don't make people do that. It's not like trying to torture them, but if they're up for it, I'm up for it.
Yeah.
And so she had these glasses in her bag that her husband had just dropped in, just out of the chance that it might work. So she pulls them out. She's like, "Do you want to do anything with these? Like they seem a bit naff. I don't know whether we should do that." And I said, "We are totally doing that."
And they were big round glasses, weren't they?
Big round glasses, oversized.
Very Jackie O.
Yes, and Irina is super short.
Rather than
so she's super short and tiny. So these were at odds with her in a sense, which is what we were trying to do through the whole shoot.
Yeah.
And so she's standing there, and I'm saying, she's tired, but she wants to keep going with this. And I said to her, what do you want this to feel like and say to your client? She says, I just want to disrupt the status quo. And she's kind of flat and not really, getting into it. And I said, I don't believe you. And I'm turning the music up even louder. And I'm like, come on, what do you want them to do? And I'm baiting her a little bit over and over again. And so she finally almost yells at me and goes, I just want them to disrupt the status quo. She's shaking a fist at me and I'm snapping. And that photo ended up becoming epic for her brand. She took it to a place overseas where she was speaking at a conference. It was a very, very conservative conference and location. And people came up to her later on saying, can we get photos doing the same pose as that photo? And she's like, yeah. And then she finally started to realize, it finally started to click for her that this was people buying into the messaging around that, the feeling that she was giving in that photo, because that's what they're feeling that they want more of in their conservative workplaces.
Yeah, right.
So she endeavored to use that photo everywhere. She got, with workshops, got people to wear the glasses and did the same pose. She even did it at a conference that she got me to photograph the event at, and it became viral. She became known for it. And so that's the possibility of branding and headshots. It doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be stock standard.
And I mean, look, I've got a background in PR, and if I see one more boring headshot of someone who says, they want to do an article, they want to get it in the media, I understand that. And I always say to people, you need original photography. Don't expect the journalist to go and find a stock shot because they hate doing it. And so provide them with a great shot. And I see time and time after again, like people that are pretty much interchangeable. Like there's no personality at all. And so, the media is not really going to use that shot, but also, they then use it in their LinkedIn profile and other things. And it's like, it is so boring. Yeah. So, I think it's really important what you do. And I think in 2024 now, we really need to show our personality. People are wanting authenticity. They don't want to see us all kind of sitting in a boring suit with our legs crossed and our arms crossed, trying to be, I don't know, something that we're not. They just want to see your personality. And I think you capture it so well.
Well, like I said to Irina, if you have the title innovation, I don't know exact title, but innovation expert, show us. Don't just talk about it. Don't just share content about it. Embody it. Be in it. Show us how that is for you, in how you embody your own self in front of the camera. Being boring is just not going to cut it these days. I mean, we might as well just take your head and put it on another person's shoulders.
Yeah. Or I know you've been posting about it a bit, or go and use AI and have some ridiculous shot put of you. I love that shot that you'd got AI to do of me as a businesswoman, and it was like,
oh my God,
it doesn't look like me at all.
That's terrible.
It was the other person that I would love you to talk about, because I know she is a raving fan, and I think it's important to note that she is a photographer of headshots, and she needed some done, and I
Nice.
suggested she go and talk to you. It was all over LinkedIn and Facebook at the time. Do you want to tell us a little bit about her story?
Yeah, so Zaharullah in Melbourne, she runs corporate
headshots, I think it's called.
Yeah, and she came to me and she's like, I need you to do my headshots. I'm like, okay, yes, okay. It's a bit scary, but okay. It's always scary photographing an actual
Well, it is, yeah. It's like you've got to be a doctor for other doctors or whatever.
And I don't think, well, she did not realise what she was getting herself into. She was just like, Jules told me to be here, so I'm here. And after the first couple of sessions, she was meeting on Zoom because we had to do a lot of the stuff in prep on Zoom.
Yeah.
She realised, oh wow, like I have to change my whole way of how I see myself so I can step up into the photos we're creating. And I'm like, yeah, you do. Like if you want to be bolder in your business and ask for different opportunities that you haven't got right now, you need to show up differently. You don't have to be different and be something you're not. You just have to show up more yourself than ever before. And she did do
that great partnership with the woman who makes suits, didn't she? Because the suits were extraordinary as well.
Yes. And I'll add a link in when we do the live here. And she hasn't actually shared all of them yet. I don't think she's quite game.
Oh, really? Yeah, they're even more outrageous because I love.
Oh yeah, there's a big one. I'm waiting for her to share it because I absolutely adore it. I think she's just waiting for some courage to own that publicly.
And maybe the right moment or the right post will come along and she'll go, that's when I need to use it. That's so funny because you sent them through to me, I think, maybe 8 o'clock. I was hosting an event in Melbourne for She's the Boss. Yes. And I had posted them both on social media, I think, before the end of the event because I was
you were already
so thrilled with them.
But for her, it's personally, I don't think it's that much of a stretch because I actually see her as that, but she does not see herself as that yet. So I'm just helping just guide her towards that more and more. That's the power of this type of work, is that it's not just, oh, I feel good with these photos, let's just post them up and get them out there and forget about them.
It's about
they're meant to prod you. They're meant to deliberately shift something within you that you haven't been able to shift before. That's the point. That's the point of this work.
They are just truly extraordinary. Louise, you're amazing. If anyone wants to work with you, what is the best way to get hold of you without giving away email addresses or phone numbers? Because I kind of feel like you never know who's lurking on any of these platforms. But how do people get hold of you?
Look, probably the best way, you'll find me on most social media as well as my website with the handle is the Louise Williams. I had to go with the Louise Williams because there's another Louise Williams in Brisbane as a psychologist that owns louisewilliams.com.au.
I like it. It's like you and the famous Hollywood stars all have the blah, blah, blah.
The Louise Williams.
So the Louise Williams on Facebook. Yeah, this will be going through LinkedIn and I will tag you so they'll be able to get hold of you through LinkedIn. And what's the website address?
Same, www.thelouisewilliams.com.au.
Fantastic. Louise, you are extraordinary. I hope that a whole lot of people now go, oh my God, I've got to use this woman, because really your work is outstanding and so different to anything else.
Thank you.
Thank you so, so much for doing this interview today.
I think you're amazing. So this was a no-brainer for me.
Well, I hope that we get a whole lot of little comments on it. We're pre-recording it because of the long weekend in Melbourne. So let's see what happens on Monday. But thank you so, so much for agreeing to do it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.